Okay, grade 8, now we're going to be adjusting a number by a percentage. This is in our common fractions section. Basically what we're going to be doing with this is increasing or decreasing a number by a given percentage. Right? The best way to learn this is through examples, some nice practical examples. So let's get started. I have 70 apples. What is 50% of my apples? So 50%, 70 times 50%, is the same as 70 times 0.5, and you know that 0.5 is the same as a half. So 70 times 1 half. And you can quite easily tell that 1 half of 70 is 35. Let's have a look at another example. I have 70 apples. How many will I have in total if I increase that number by 50%? Okay, you should already be getting some idea of, we know what 50% of 70 is, right? So that's 70 times 50% is 35. And we want to increase the number by 50%. So we say 70 plus 35, and that is equal to 105. So another way we could do this is say 70 times 150%. Now the 100% is the 70 itself, because we know that 100% of 70 is 70. So we can just write adding another 50% here, and that is going to equal 105 as well. So this is the same as 70 times 1 and a half, and that is 70 times 3 over 2, because we say 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3 all over 2. You know how to do this. Make sure you watch the video on converting mixed numbers to improper fractions if you don't know how to do that. And then 70, we multiply the top and multiply the bottom. 70 times 3 is 210, and 1 times 2 is 2. And that is equal to 105. Okay, let's have a look at another example. I want to increase my savings by 30% this year. I currently have 870 Rand. What will I have at the end of the year? Okay, so let's go the long way around. We can go 870 times 30%. That is the same as, you know, a percentage is that number per 100. So 30 per 100. So 870 times 30 over 100. That is the same as 870 over 1 times 3 over 10, because you know we can cancel zeros on the top and the bottom, starting from the right. And that is equal to 2,610 divided by 10. That is what would happen if you multiplied the top. You get 2,610. Use a calculator or long multiplication if you need. And that is quite easy because we can just cancel the zeros again and we get 261. Now we've got to add 870 to this number here. So this number here, we knew, is 261. So that's quite easy. 870 plus 261, and that is equal to 1,130 Rand. And that's how much Rand we want to have at the end of the year. But what would be the easier way to do this? So what we could do, we could say 870 plus 870 times 30%. We can drop the brackets, that's all we've done there. Now we take out the common factor of 870. So 870 is the same as, or this whole equation is the same as 870 times 1 plus 0.3. We know that 30% is 0.30, and we know that's a 3. And we know that, so if we times this out, we would get that exact thing. So look, if we said 870 times 1, that equals 870, and 870 times 0.3, that is equal to this part of the equation here. So that is the same as 870. We add those two together to get 1.3. And then we can just simply say that is the exact same, if you put that in your calculator, as 1,131. And that is the easier way. So this is method 1, and this is method 2. Either will get you the same answer. Do what works the best for you and what you understand the best. I'll always encourage taking the longer way if you're struggling to understand it your first few times. Okay, let's have a look at another example. I used to have 30 apples. I now have 45 apples. By what percent have I increased my apples? So it's now the same question but asked slightly differently. So we go 30 times some percent, and that's going to give us 45. So how do we solve for this part of an equation? Make sure you watch the videos on algebra and equations if you're struggling to figure this out. But what we can do is, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So what if we times the left-hand side by 1 over 30? That means we'd have to times the right-hand side by 1 over 30. And what happens here? 30 divided by 30, because that is the same as 30 over 30, they cancel each other out, because this is over 1. So those cancel each other out, or it goes 1 over 1. And then over here, we have the question mark percent is equal to 45 over 30, because that's the same as 45 over 1. And then 45 times 1 is 45, and 1 times 30 is 30. We can simplify this further to give us 9 over 6, and even further to give us 3 over 2. What is 3 over 2? That is an improper fraction, so we need to convert it to a mixed number, and that is 1.5. And that is the same as 1.5, and that, as we know, is 150%, because we add some zeros here, that's okay, and we take our decimal 2 across to get 150% over there. Okay, let's have a look at another example. I used to have 8 shoes. I now have 6 shoes. By what percent have I decreased my shoes? So what percent have I decreased my shoes? Okay, let's have a look at this. You've got to look at the wording carefully here. This is going to lead us into our next video on word problems. 8 times a certain percent is equal to 6. So we follow the exact same method. We times by 1 over 8 on the side and 1 over 8 on the side. Those cancel out nicely. So we're left with 1 times the percent over 6 over 8 on this side. And that is the same as 3 over 4. So the percentage, or it's 3 over 4, the percentage is 0.75, or the decimal, and the percentage is 75%. But be careful here, that's not the answer. I have 75% the amount of shoes I used to have. I haven't decreased my amount of shoes by 75%. I have 75% of what I used to have. Therefore, I have decreased my number of shoes by 25%, because we simply went 100 minus 75% to give us 25%. And one last example. I have 200 oranges. I give 23% of them away. How many do I have left? Okay, how are we going to do this? We give 23% of our oranges away, so we're going to be left with 100 minus 23% afterwards. So we gave 23% away, so we're going to be left with 100% minus 23%, and that is equal to, quite easily, 77%. So that is how many we are left with. So we need to figure out what 77% of 200 oranges is. So what do we do that? We go 200, sorry, that's just a 0, 200 multiplied by 77%. So that is the same as 200, put an equals here, multiplied by 0.77. So you could work this out quite easily on a calculator. Something else you could spot here is that 200 is the same as 2 100s. It's quite easy to find 77% of 100, correct? So this is the same as 100, this is just for your interest, times 0.77%, plus 100 times 0.77%, or 0.77. And that is equal to 77 plus 77. This is just to practice working out things like this. And that you can see is, we know 70 plus 70 is 140, plus another 14 is 154. And that is how many oranges we have left. Okay, so we've just finished the section on adjusting a number by a percentage. Well done, grade 8s. We're going to now move on to word problems, which is very similar to what we've been doing now, but including everything over here. Okay.